Welcome back to the Hall of Whispers, dear Turkish series stars family. In a world as unpredictable as Turkish television, where egos can echo louder than applause and loyalty shivers under the bright heat of blockbuster deals, every so often something rare breaks through the noise. It isn't a fling splashed across a tabloid, or a sun-drenched getaway snapped by a prying lens. It's something that can halt cameras, freeze budgets, and test the backbone of an entire production. Tonight, we're pulling back the velvet curtain on a shockwave that rattled the industry with two powerful epicenters, Yaman and Demet Özdemir. What started as murmurs in the makeup chairs has grown into a drumbeat you can hear across every corridor. A quiet war for artistic dignity that reached a boiling point when Can dropped a sentence so sharp it sliced through the boardroom air and sent investors into a cold sweat. If Demet walks away, I walk too. Why would one of the most marketable names on Turkish screens put his own contract at stake? Is this the demise of a hit or the dawn of a star-led uprising? Before we dive headfirst into the heart of this storm, remember to subscribe to Turkish series stars, hit that bell so you don't miss a twist, and if you want to back fearless storytelling that refuses to look the other way, tap join. Your support keeps us independent and unstoppable. Ready to face what really happened? Let's go where the cameras don't. To grasp the blast, you have to see the fuse. Sources nestled right at the core of the set tell us this tension wasn't born overnight. It crept in slowly, almost politely, before settling in for good. And at the center of it all stands Demet Özdemir. A performer with the charisma to light a room and the craft to own it, yet, according to those same sources, she was quietly sidelined by a series of creative decisions that felt less like edits and more like erasures. Word has it that the writers, under pressure, distracted, or simply blind to the heartbeat of their own story, began to drift her character to the margins. Picture the frustration of someone of her caliber watching a role that should have been the spine of the narrative slip, scene by scene, into decorative territory. Demet, the consummate professional with a spine of steel, is said to have confided to trusted friends a line that captures it all: "I should matter more in this narrative." This is not vanity, Turkish series stars family, it's craft. She wasn't clamoring for extra close-ups. She wanted continuity, respect, and the integrity of a character she had built with patience, sweat, and heart. While she kept her voice measured, someone else was paying attention with a precision you don't learn in talent workshops. In an industry where co-leads often watch storms pass as long as their umbrella stays dry, Yaman decided silence was not an option. Rather than pivot away, he stepped toward the fire. The electricity we witness on screen isn't just a happy accident of lighting and angles, it's the mirror of a real professional bond, rooted in mutual respect, that refuses to evaporate when the director calls cut. Eyewitnesses describe a set that had lost its laughter. Breaks got quiet. Smiles grew distant. And then came the moment. Whether it happened in a routine production meeting that was anything but routine, or right after a scene so thinly written it stung, Can made it plain. If Demet is pushed out or chooses to step down, he will not be the one trying to patch the hole. It wasn't about a bigger paycheck. It wasn't a temper tantrum. It was a line in the sand drawn in loyalty. If you're wondering how that landed on the other side of the table, chaos. Panic. A flurry of midnight calls. A writer's room suddenly on red alert. Because losing one star is bad math, losing both is disaster. The show doesn't just lean on a script, it leans on a selling point. Can and Demet together. You can adjust a subplot, you can't swap chemistry. Insiders say the producers rushed forward with promises: a rebuilt arc for Demet, a story worthy of her gravity, a return to the leading presence she should never have had to fight for. Stronger scenes. Deeper motivations. Richer conflicts. But the question hangs like heavy perfume in a closed room: are these promises a blueprint for change, or just a glossy bandage over a cut that needs stitches? As for Can, he hasn't budged, but he hasn't bolted either. He's holding his position, letting the words he already spoke hover overhead with the weight of a chandelier, elegant, immovable, impossible to ignore. Wait and see. Deliver or don't. The message is clean. The series stands on two pillars. If one is chipped away to dust, the other refuses to pretend it can carry the facade alone. Tell me, have you ever had a colleague stand next to you when everyone else stepped back? Is that heroism or recklessness? Drop your take below. And yes, members of our Turkish series stars community who hit join get first priority in my replies and deep dive follow-ups, because your support is what lets us keep calling it as we see it. Of course, nothing this volatile stays on set. It bursts the doors and rushes straight into the offices of those who speak the language of numbers, not narratives. The brands that poured money into the show didn't sign up for a title. They signed up for a magnet, the Can and Demet phenomenon. That pairing sells out premieres and drives click-throughs. So the advertising partners, we hear, have been crystal clear: keep both or watch the deals evaporate. Know them, know us, is the sentiment floating through those conference rooms. That outside pressure doesn't just bolster the actors' leverage, it clarifies what the public already knows. Talent moves the needle. Chemistry seals the deal. Meanwhile, Demet has wrapped herself in a strategic quiet. "I'll speak when the path is real," she reportedly told people she trusts. That silence isn't an absence. It's a choice. She understands that one sentence, out of context, can be twisted like wire. So she's letting her work speak and her management do the walking. And speaking of her team, they've been tireless as day after day in meetings, pushing not for special treatment, but for guarantees. Not a promise of a few shiny moments this week, forgotten the next, but a structure that respects strong women as central forces, not occasional decorations. Demet does not want a throne, she wants a fair stage. The digital town square has noticed. Timelines are lit up. Fans trade theories with the intensity of courtroom closings. One camp hails Can as the kind of partner every actor deserves. Together they raise the value of everything, they write, as if stamping it in gold. The more anxious camp asks the darker question: if both walk, does the story simply vanish? Are we watching brinkmanship to secure what's right? Or are we witnessing the beginning of an exit that will be studied in film schools as the textbook case of how not to handle your stars? The term rippling through comment sections feels almost mythic, the great split. Is it coming, or is the thread itself the medicine the show needs to heal? What must be understood is that this wasn't a thunderclap from a clear sky. Those on the ground insist it's the culmination of small cuts, quiet slights, and the fatigue that comes from pretending not to notice. The bond between Can and Demet wasn't built on gossip and photo ops, it was forged in early call times, late-night fixes, and the kind of candid exchanges that make scripts better. They often workshop lines together, nudge a beat until it rings true, carry each other when the day stretches past endurance. That's not romance, that's a professional kinship, a brother and sister in arms energy that gives a story its soul. So when Can stands up for Demet, he isn't just shielding a friend. He's protecting the integrity of the thing they built side by side. Producers, sensing the cliff edge, are trying to reverse a tide that took months to swell. Every storyline is under review. The show Bible is being tugged apart and rewoven. There's talk, whispers at first, louder now, of returning to the original promise that made audiences fall in love, a narrative with two hearts beating in sync, not one leading while the other lingers in shadow. Can's stance has forced a reckoning. If the team can't recognize what the audience has known from the pilot, that the series breathes best when both leads breathe freely, then the audience may not be there to clap when the credits roll. Inside the meeting rooms, the language has changed. Instead of "we'll see," it's "how soon." Instead of "maybe," it's "yes, but how do we implement it right?" They're scouting for directors who understand nuance and writers who can honor complexity without drowning it in melodrama. Promises are being typed into contracts rather than whispered across craft services. And yet, the wound of mistrust is delicate. One wrong move, one late pivot back to the old habits, and the faith they're trying to restore could splinter again. You can feel the stakes in the air like humidity before a summer storm. Offset, deals dangle in the balance. Promo campaigns were storyboarded around Can and Demet. Billboards rely on that dual charge. The brands pushing from the outside may not understand what an arc needs, but they understand gravity. They've tethered their image to these two, and they are not ready to cut the cord. Their insistence inadvertently becomes a shield for the actors' demands, a wave pushing the production back toward the shore of common sense. And through it all, Can's message hasn't turned into noise. He isn't shouting. He isn't posting cryptic captions. He said what he meant, and he's letting time do the rest. That maturity, choosing resolve over rage, has impressed even those who don't like ultimatums. Because sometimes, the only thing that restores order is a boundary that can't be budged. So where does that leave us? On the edge. The next steps will be decisive. Either the show earns its second wind, reborn, recommitted, refocused on the two hearts that beat at its core, or it becomes a cautionary tale told in hushed voices in production offices for years. Remember when they let them slip away? Neither Can nor Demet needs this project to prove their worth. That is why they've already won the moral round. They've shown their art isn't up for auction, and their dignity doesn't expire when the camera red light turns on. At Turkish series stars, we'll keep watch, day and night. If a script is rewritten, if a clause is inked, if a statement lands, you'll hear it here first. If this story of solidarity moves you, hit like so the algorithm knows where to aim its spotlight. Share this episode so the gatekeepers understand that audiences are paying attention to how their favorites are treated. And if you want front row access to our breakdowns and insider context, consider joining our VIP circle by tapping join. Your backing lets us keep telling the stories others would rather bury. One last thought before we dim the lights: loyalty is a rare currency in this business, and when it shows up, it deserves to be seen. If Can's line in the sand brings the narrative back to where it belongs, a partnership of equals, then this crisis may yet become the turning point that saves the show from itself. And if the people in charge fail to hear the music that fans have been dancing to since episode 1, well, even the biggest stages can go dark. For now, the spotlight holds steady on two figures who know exactly what they bring to a story and exactly what they refuse to lose. We'll be here, watching the next beat. Stay tuned, Turkish series stars family. Because the ending hasn't been written yet, and sometimes the best scenes are born under the brightest pressure.